This is the unsolved murder of Lavenna Johnson. Lavenna became a private first class of the United States Army and was stationed in Balad, Iraq. She would frequently call her parents to update them on her experience. On July 17th, Lavenna called her parents, telling them that she would be home early for Christmas, and she seemed very excited. Only a couple days later, her family received a call from soldiers saying that Lavenna committed suicide. However, there was no indication that she was suicidal. At 1:20 a.m., her body was found in a pool of blood next to an M16 rifle that seemed a little bit too far away from her. An autopsy was done and they ruled it a suicide. However, the parents were not buying it. The gunshot wound came from the left side. However, she was right-handed. Her nose was broken and her lips were very cut. Also, her gloves were glued to her hands. That was not normal protocol. The family hired a private investigator who found some more evidence. She had a black eye, loose teeth, and corrosive liquid poured onto her genitals. Her family is still seeking justice.
Where did she go? In the early morning hours of February 14, 2000, 9-year-old Aisha Degree grabbed her backpack, left her family home in the middle of a storm, and began walking along North Carolina Highway 18. Between 3:45 and 4:15 a.m., several motorists saw her, and one even turned around and tried to approach her, but she ran into the woods. This was a little over a mile away from her house, and it was the last time anyone saw her. In 2001, her backpack, which had been double wrapped in trash bags, was found buried along that same highway 26 miles from where she was last seen. Why would a 9-year-old who was described as cautious, shy, and terrified of thunderstorms and the dark walk out in the middle of the night into a storm and just vanish?
Scary stalkers caught on camera. In 2017, Jerome Kennedy heard strange noises coming from the ceiling of his bedroom at night, and suspecting that someone might be up there or in the attic above him, he installed a security camera. The recording shows a man, later recognized by Jerome as his neighbor, crawling around in the attic with a drill and a torch. He then lies on a vent that overlooks Jerome's bed and his daughter's crib and looks at them for about 30 minutes.
Creepy unsolved mysteries that might creep you out. Number 10, the Net Cayadito. In the early hours of April 6, 1986, 9-year-old Antoinette was abducted by two men in a brown van from her home. The following year after the disappearance, Gallup, New Mexico police received the following eerie, frantic phone call.
Gallup Police Department. Hello. I'm Antoinette Cayadito. I'm Antoinette Cayadito in Albuquerque. Okay, whereabouts in Albuquerque? Hello? Antoinette, where are you?
4 years later, in Carson, New Mexico, a waitress at a restaurant noticed a couple and a teenage girl who matched the description of Antoinette. After the girl and the couple left, the waitress found the following note under the teenage girl's plate. Antoinette has been missing for 35 years.
I've never researched a case that has had more unexplainable circumstances than this. This is the mystery of Dyatlov Pass. For those who aren't familiar with the story, this is in 1959 when 9 experienced Russian hikers are reported missing after a mountain expedition. A search crew was sent to look for them, and what they found was horrific. Their tent was there, but it had been cut from the inside as if they were trying to escape it. The search party that was there didn't find any evidence of a threat outside of the tent, so why they cut their way out was completely unknown. But even stranger than that, the footprints that were found outside of the tent indicated that after they cut their way out, they weren't running. They were just walking normally. The bodies are all discovered kind of scattered in a several-mile radius throughout the snow, some of them half-dressed. 6 of them died from hypothermia, and 3 of them died from an unknown blunt force trauma causing severe damage to the skull and chest. 2 of them are found without eyes, 1 with their tongue cut out, and 1 without eyebrows. 1 of the bodies also tested positive for unusually high levels of radiation in their clothing. The most widely accepted theory is that this was some kind of an avalanche that had melted by the time the search party came, and that the missing eyes and tongue were just attributed to animals. But let's talk about some contradicting evidence here. These were 9 very experienced hikers that would know enough not to set up camp in any sort of a danger zone, nor was there any evidence that an avalanche even occurred by the time the search party came. That, in addition to the slow-moving footprints outside of the tent when they were supposedly trying to outrun this avalanche, or even the radiation in the clothing. The case has never conclusively been closed, but no one really knows for sure what they saw that night that made them cut their way out of their tent.
Dark Things Disney Doesn't Want You to Know, Part 4. Today, let's talk about the mysterious disappearance of Rebecca Corium. Rebecca Corium was a 24-year-old worker on the Disney Wonder cruise ship. On March 22, 2011, while working on the cruise ship, Rebecca disappeared without a trace. This is one of the last photos taken of her, and it was from CCTV footage. At 5:45 a.m. that morning, footage revealed Rebecca talking on the phone with someone. She seemed visibly distressed. Now here's where it gets twisted. Many people believe that Disney knows exactly what happened to Rebecca, but are trying to cover up this whole thing. Let me explain. For starters, the captain of the ship said that Rebecca was just washed over by a big wave. They then gave Rebecca's parents a sandal and said that this was hers and it was retrieved from the deck that she was last seen on. Number 1, the sandal wasn't her size. Number 2, it wasn't her style. It was also revealed that Disney had edited the CCTV footage. Check out part 2 on this case for more information. The Mysterious Disappearance of Rebecca Corium, Part 2. Basically, Rebecca was a worker for a Disney cruise ship and she disappeared one night without a trace, and Disney's covering it up. Basically, what I said in my last video is that Disney lied to Rebecca's parents and they edited the CCTV footage of her. Why would they do this, you may ask? Well, how bad would it look if one of their employees died on their cruise ship? The captain lied and said that Rebecca was just washed away by a big wave from a storm that night. Well, guess what? There was no storm that night. A worker on the Disney cruise ship that actually knew Rebecca said that Disney knows exactly what happened. They have CCTV footage of it. They're just refusing to show anyone. He went on to say, there's CCTV footage everywhere. How did they not know what happened to Rebecca after that phone call? So basically it's thought that Disney knows exactly what happened to her. They're just covering it up so that they don't damage their reputation, which is super messed up. I just hope that one day we can get justice for Rebecca.
Day 3 of Scaretober, the Basement Demon. A group of paranormal investigators attempted to assist a Philadelphia homeowner who was too frightened to sleep in their own home. Each night, something was making terrible noises in the basement and sounded as if someone was down there. The investigators ended up putting a recorder down in the basement, and this is what they recorded.
Here's some of the scariest things that have been caught by YouTubers. Part 2. A YouTuber named Yusuf Ahmadi and his friend were told by one of his followers to explore an abandoned building that had satanic symbols inside. Intrigued, he managed to evade security and get in. Then the duo started looking around. When they entered the property, they both felt uneasy and smelled something foul coming from inside the building. After circling the building, they found an open window with a ladder underneath it. However, the ladder had dark red stains on it, as well as the window ledge. He still continued to climb the ladder to get inside, and that's when he found it. There was what looked to be a dead body covered with a white sheet stained with blood. They quickly ran away, and while doing so, found another body hanging from the tree. They escaped unharmed and called the police, and no further updates have been given.
This plane and its 89 passengers disappeared after flying into this strange storm, and you won't believe what happened to them when they came out of it. On April 1988, a plane was making its routine journey from Hawaii to Honolulu. The passengers and crew members were enjoying their flight when suddenly they heard a strange humming sound. Some strange storm clouds had appeared right in front of the plane out of nowhere, and they were headed right for it. Passengers began screaming, and the pilots were taken by surprise as the plane began to shake. But just as everyone thought the plane was going down, the storm suddenly disappeared and the shaking stopped. That's when the pilots heard a strange ripping sound above them and looked up to see what it was. The pilots were shocked to see open sky as the roof of the plane had completely torn off. Thankfully, the pilots remained calm and were able to land the plane safely. All the passengers made it back alive, except for one flight attendant who strangely disappeared.
This old man has been robbing banks, like a lot of banks, but there's a plot twist. Starting in 2009, he would walk into banks in Southern California wearing gloves and carrying a leather case, from which he would pull out a revolver, pointed at the teller, slip them a note demanding money, or else he'd kill them. The FBI calls him the Geezer Bandit because he appears to be in his 60s or 70s, but some members of law enforcement don't think he's old at all. Based on photos of his appearance and security footage catching him sprinting across a parking lot, it's been suggested that he's using a professional-grade prosthetic mask and gloves to appear older. He could be a teenager for all we know, but whatever his age is, he's really good at robbing banks. He's robbed at least 16, and despite a $20,000 reward, he's never been caught.